For decades, many have wondered about the political event that happened during President Nixon's term in office. In this time frame, history occurred in what we call Watergate. We will discuss some of the main things we gathered from the sources we used in our outline. Many of us may not have been alive to see the Watergate scandal happening, although we all have lived through the impact of what this occurrence has caused and how it has affected the nation and the trust in the government. My group and I felt the Watergate was a topic not known or discussed enough for many around our ages to clearly get a grasp on. We found the Watergate scandal interested us to intercept what the causes were, major events that occurred during and the aftermath of the scandal. In this speech, Adrian will discuss the Watergate scandal in his speech, and he will mostly talk about the possible causes of the scandal and major events that happened and the results of the scandal. Now let us inform you of the events leading up to the scandal.
Hello, everybody. Me and Joshua are talking about the Watergate scandal. So first, I wanted to start off with how everything led up to the Watergate scandal occurring in the first place. It all began with 5 burglars. They broke in on June 17th of 1972. They were trying to wire the place and get information for the re-election of Richard Nixon. They were wiretapping phones and getting confidential Democrat documents in order to help Richard Nixon get reelected as president. 2 of the men that were caught robbing or in the burglar actually ended up working with the CIA and directly with the CRP. The Washington Post actually covered up some of the scandal itself, but after a while, an anonymous person ended up revealing the true thoughts and points of Richard Nixon as he was trying to cover up and actually told everybody to cover up the Watergate in general of the re-election. Some main points that happened during the Watergate scandal was that a woman was actually kidnapped and she was silenced. This is something that many might not have seen because of Richard Nixon specifically covering up and hiding everything, so it wasn't well known to the public, especially at the time. Her name was Martha Mitchell, and she was being silenced and abused while she was trying to tell the public about the lying that Richard Nixon was doing. She was the wife of actually the campaign manager for Nixon's re-election. Her husband actually kept a close eye on her, keeping her quiet, letting her know that she must not let the media know about the burglar and everyone helping Nixon get reelected. Martha was held captive until a New York reporter helped find her. They were helping cover up the Watergate burglary. Remaining Republicans who had voted against Nixon's impeachment before actually ended up changing their stance on the election because of what Nixon was doing. Soon, many of the people realizing that Nixon was lying and covering up a lot of his information for the re-election. Lastly, some things that were happening were the trust that was broken for the media. Nixon was at first a trustworthy and honest man for a lot of the Republicans voting for him. The faith was soon shattered with the exposure of the scandal, as a lot of the Washington Post reporters ended up exposing his tapes and audio tapes of all that nature. The people lost trust in political figures in general because Nixon just was lying about everything, and he became the first president in history to actually resign from office, doing so after his fate was sealed politically by the impeachment by the Senate. His name is still synonymous with the scandal and conspiracy. Most modern political scandals still bear the mark of Watergate, as gate is now used as a suffix whenever naming a scandal or a controversy. Some of the aftermath was the media becomes more confident and aggressive. A lot of the media began to believe and sort of attack Richard Nixon for his presidency. They weren't really sure as to why he would do something like this. The new wave of Democratic congressmen elected in 1976, some of those men also helped, not necessarily helped Richard Nixon be clear, but they also kind of just like eased his path of the way it was happening. Nixon also talked about some of the rehabilitating his reputation in books and novels. He liked to, I guess he was trying to display what he was doing and why he did it, which I believe there was no real reason why you should do something like that. And even more tapes were actually leaked later in 1976 and 1977, different audios and tapes about the Martha Mitchell incident and also just the burglary and Nixon ordering people to cover up what was happening. Some of my thoughts on the Watergate scandal. Many still wanted Nixon in office. Although many did start seeing what was going on, there were still quite a few people that believed that it was all a lie, even though there was audio tapes and videos of him ordering people to do things like this. They still wanted to just believe that it wasn't true, and they wanted Nixon truly in office. Presidents lie, but covering up a lie, I believe, is unacceptable. I believe a lot of presidents will lie to be chosen as a president in the United States to an extent. I mean, obviously, they're not lying about everything, but to an extent, they don't fulfill every single thing that they've ever said when they're being elected. But what Nixon did, I believe, was unacceptable. He lied during his presidency. He didn't lie about the presidency. I have a question for y'all. Do you believe that he should have been criminally charged? I believe at least some sort of charge should have been put on him. Not necessarily that he was a criminal, but that wasn't the right thing to do, especially as a leader in a role to the United States as a president. That's a big role, and doing something like that, lying to everybody, is, I feel like, should be a charge of some sort. And that'll conclude the main points of this speech. I will give it to Joshua, and thank you all.
Hopefully, Adrian's speech gave you a better understanding of the major events and causes of the Watergate scandal, maybe even a different view on how the aftermath may have affected others. Personally, this has opened up my mind to say anything vigilant with our presidential candidates. We the people much over time our past presidents' failures and look towards the future to steer clear of another Watergate scandal. Thank you for watching.